Chapter 26. We must now understand the further descent of the light as it is within the 10 Sephirot of Abba and Ima, insight and comprehension themselves. That is, we must understand how the inner aspect of the brains of Abba and Ima, insight and comprehension, receive influence from Chesed and Gevurah of Arich Anpin, kindness and sternness of desire. Moreover, we must certainly understand, as they ascend to receive from the Mazalot of Arich Anpin, as mentioned previously. Finally, we must understand the external aspects of Nehi, which is an acronym for Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, of Abba and Ima, the gut emotions of insight and comprehension, which vest within the brains of Zer Anpin, intellect of the emotions, as stated in Eitz Chaim. Now, the explanation of this matter is known, that the inner aspects of the brains of Abba and Ima are likened to Shabbat and Yom Tov. This is because Shabbat, which is referred to as Kodesh, holy, is observed through the pleasure of Chokhmah, which is a thing unto itself. This is the aspect of the inner light of Abba, insight, which is the innerness of Atik Yomin, pleasure. This is the reason for the statement, and you shall call the Shabbat pleasure, as explained elsewhere at length regarding the matter of the 3 meals of Shabbat. Yom Tov, however, is referred to as Mikra Kodesh. It is called holy, which is an aspect of joy, as stated, the mother of the children rejoices. The mother refers to the aspect of the brains of Ima, comprehension, which receives from Abba, insight, because the cessation from work of Shabbat is also within Chokhmah. That is to say, it is the inner aspect of Abba which is the aspect of the Koach Ma, the potential power of what. This is the intangible nothingness of Chokhmah before it spreads forth to become a tangible something within the comprehension of Bina. Similarly, Bina, in its inner aspect, is the depth of the comprehension, Omek HaMusag, for, as known, there is the nothingness of Chokhmah within Bina, and there is the somethingness of Bina within Chokhmah. This is the meaning of the statement, be understanding in wisdom and wise in understanding, which refers to the aspect of the inner unification of Abba and Ima. This is not the case, however, with the external flow of the influence of Chokhmah and Bina, i.e. their Chagat and Nehi, etc., such as the emotional Sephirot of Chokhmah, which are called the aspect of the 6 directions of Abba. For example, this is the quality of Chesed of Chokhmah, kindness of insight, which is the intellectual power that leans towards kindness, or the different intellectual power of Gevurah, which leans towards judgment. These in turn radiate within Chesed and Gevurah of Bina, kindness and sternness of comprehension. That is, it comes into comprehension with sound reasoning and explanation, either for merit or liability. These are called the emotions of the comprehended intellect before they are born as actual heartfelt emotions in and of themselves, as will be explained. Now, when a person cannot find a reason in a way of comprehensible explanation for his position, but is nonetheless incapable of conceding to the opposite position because of his intellectual leanings, this is an aspect of Chesed and Gevurah of Abba, kindness and sternness of insight, as it is before it radiates from the nothingness of Chokhmah insight into the somethingness of Bina comprehension. An example of this is the matter of the Talmudic incident in which Rav kept silent, etc. However, the statement, silence is a protective fence for wisdom, or if speech is worth 1 selah, then silence is worth 2, refer to the sublimation of the Koach Ma, the potential power of what of Chokhmah, which ascends to the source from where all wisdom comes and brings out new insights from there. This source is called Chokhmah Stima'ah, the hidden wisdom, as previously explained. Now, the aspect of Nehi of Chokhmah, the gut emotions of insight, is the aspect of the scales of intellect and insight as to how this intellectual matter should come to be expressed. This is the aspect of the kidneys which give counsel. This is the matter of the strength of the intellect, which is called strong-mindedness. Just as the legs have the strength to uphold the entire body, so too the aspects of Netzach and Hod of Abba uphold the body of the mind. The reverse is true if he is not strong-minded. He will easily fall and retreat from his logical reasoning and change his stance from judging something as being liable to being meritorious, or from impure to pure, etc. The same principle applies to Netzach and Hod of Ima. In general, the brains of Zeir Anpin, which are heartfelt emotions that are below intellect, as will be explained, come about from the enclothement of the aspect of the Nehi of Abba into the Nehi of Ima. Now, the particular matters of the unifications of Abba and Ima are well known. This refers to whether their unification is in their inner aspect for their own purpose, which is the unification of their first three Sephirot before they spread forth into the emotional Sephirot, or whether they unify to bring about new brains for Zeir Anpin and Nukva, which is only the external unification of Nehi. The difference between these two unifications is the same as the difference between Shabbat and the weekdays. In the Shema recital, the inner intention of the words Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem our God, is the inner unification of Abba and Ima, insight and comprehension, from which it follows that Hashem is one, which refers to the unification of Zeir Anpin and Nukva, emotions and speech or actions, as they receive an aspect of additional influence of new intellect so that they may be able to give birth, etc. This is brought about by giving ourselves over to Hashem with complete self-sacrifice during the Shema recital. In contrast, when one studies Torah and performs the commandments without self-sacrifice, then Ze'er Anpin and Nukva, emotions and speech or action, only receive from an external unification of Abba and Ima, insight and comprehension, as explained elsewhere. An example of the inner unification is the matter of the 10 martyrs who brought about an ascent of the feminine waters, the Mayim Nukvin, to the inner aspect of Abba and Ima, specifically through giving their actual lives over to Hashem with complete self-sacrifice. This also is a matter of the unification of the upper Abba and Ima, and the unification of the lower Abba and Ima, which is Yisrael Saba and Tevunah, as was explained at length before in regard to the matter of Bina and Tevunah. The aspect of Yisrael Saba is the 6 directions of Abba, and Tevunah is the 6 directions of Ima. These two are called the lower Abba and Ima. However, there is another Yisrael Saba which is even higher than the upper Abba and Ima. This is the 6 directions of the hidden Chokhmah of Arich Anpin, and the higher Tevunah is the 6 directions of Bina of Arich Anpin. The source for the inner unification of the upper Abba and Ima, involving their first 3 Sefirot, as explained above, is drawn from the unification of the higher Yisrael Saba and Tevunah of Arich Anpin. Now, when intellect is drawn down from Abba and Ima to Ze'er Anpin and Nukva in order to give birth to souls, it is then necessary for the unification of Abba and Ima to be in the inner intellect in their root within the 2 Mazalot of Arich Anpin. This then is the meaning of the statement, children, health and livelihood depend on Mazal. This is, as explained elsewhere, that this is the inner meaning of the prayer, the supernal God, who bestows good kindnesses, the possessor of all, who remembers the kindnesses of the fathers, and brings a redeemer to their children's children, etc. The supernal God refers to the ascent of the inner light of Abba, insight, as it receives from the Mazal of Notzer. Then the result of this is that he bestows good kindnesses through the aspect of Yesod, which is called the possessor of all, to give birth to offspring through the resulting unification of Ze'er Anpin and Nukva. This then is the meaning of the continuation of the verse, he remembers the kindnesses of the fathers and brings a redeemer to their children's children. The analogy for this is well known. It is similar to a person who is particularly outstanding in his deep insight and wisdom. Since he knows the concept to its depth, specifically to the very source of its inception, he is therefore capable of bringing out influence from it to someone who is of a much lesser intellectual capacity than himself, even to a small child. This is to say that he can make new combinations to explain how to conceptualize this specific concept, not merely explaining it as it is already in his own mind. Furthermore, he is capable of formulating and giving rise to entirely new and different concepts through this concept. However, such is not the case in regard to one who is not so exceptionally wise and who grasps the concept and wisdom merely as it is. It is difficult enough for him to make the breakthrough and grasp it himself. However, he will be altogether incapable of giving birth to new insights from it. Certainly he will be incapable of lowering it and bringing down the explanation of the concept so that even a child could understand it. From all the above, we find that the aspect of Nehi of Chokhmah, the gut emotions of insight, which is the aspect of Yesod, i.e. the power to influence a recipient, is specifically dependent upon the potential power to conceptualize, Koach HaMaskil, which is the source from which all concepts are hewn from nothing to something. This is likewise so in regard to the birth of souls from the aspect of Nehi. The aspect of Nehi cannot give birth to new souls unless there is additional influence of strength in the source of its intellect from a much higher level than intellect. This is the reason that for there to be a birth of souls through the unification of Abba and Ima, there must be influence from higher than the source of the intellect of Abba and Ima. This is the aspect of the mazalot of the hidden wisdom, Chokhmah Stima'ah, which is even higher than Chokhmah and Bina of Arich Anpin itself, as previously explained. This is also the reason for the inner unification of Abba and Ima during the night of the Holy Shabbat, Shabbat Kodesh. This is because this unification is to give birth to souls. That is specifically the time for the marital relations of the sages. This is because they are Torah scholars who are called Kodesh, holy, and the source of Shabbat is in the upper Kodesh, holiness, which is the inner aspect of the light of Abba, as explained before. This will suffice for those of understanding.